Hi, everybody. Welcome to CURVEX's Mental Health Podcast. I'm here with Stig Sølvhøj. Thank you for coming here. I was hoping you could introduce yourself to our audience so they can get to know you a little bit.
Well, I'd be happy to. So thank you for inviting me. My name is Stig Sølvhøj. I am originally a psychotherapist. I have a bachelor within organizational psychology and a master within psychology and a PhD within stress and thinking processes. And I'm an associate professor at Rosemont University in the States, actually. Besides that, I'm head of research and the founder of the MINDstrain method and the company MINDstrain.
Okay, so there's a lot to talk about with mental health. How did you begin this journey?
Well, actually, the interest for psychology started in the beginning of the 90s, actually.
Okay.
When I started studying psychology.
Yeah.
And the interest in the specific topic, stress and anxiety and mental health, actually to me started more or less maybe by accident or maybe by faith, I don't know, but it was back in 2012. In 2012, I just started an education within metacognitive therapy. I found it very interesting. It's a relatively new psychological theory or direction. It's from 1995.
Can you explain what metacognition is?
Yeah, I can. Metacognitive psychology and therapy is working with thought processes instead of thought content. Okay. So actually you could say the thought content is what you think upon, and thought processes is the way that you think upon it. And a metacognition is actually a thought about thoughts. It's a thought about your emotions. It's a thought about your bodily reaction. So it's kind of like convictions.
Is this right now metacognition because we're thinking about thinking, or is that different? Is this right now literally metacognition?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
For example, sometimes you sit in your car and you're listening to a music tune.
Yeah.
And you think, who is it who actually played that one?
Yeah.
That's a metacognition because you start not thinking about the music, but actually who recorded the music, who made it originally.
Okay.
That's a metacognition.
And so this sounds like kind of a very new field. How did you find this and know that this is what you want to do?
Well, originally I'm cognitive educated within cognitive psychology.
Okay.
And I really believed for many years that we have to work with our thoughts to change things. Actually, the cognitive psychology more or less defines that thoughts are just like a story, it's a narrative, and it can't be reinvented. You can actually change it. But the reason that we are not going to change this is actually that we have beliefs, metacognitions, that prevents us from changing it.
Could you give an example of one of these beliefs?
Well, actually, you could say I'm not capable of concentrating if there's a mess around me. Then you have a belief about your own capability of making focus or being concentrated.
Okay.
So you will keep cleaning up, tidying up, because otherwise you have convinced yourself I'm not capable of focusing or concentrating. Yeah. But if you work with the belief, actually you could learn how to handle any type of mess or some kind of distress and still be focused. Yeah. So working with metacognitions is actually working with the problem instead of just solving the problem.
So this is I guess this is kind of like where we talk about, you can give someone a fish or you can teach them how to fish. Yeah. And this sounds like if you solve the problem, you've gotten a fish. But if you figure out how to solve the source of the problem, or work problems, be a problem solver, then you've created a much more long-term solution. Yeah. So this is kind of why you focus on that, I guess, huh?
Yeah. And then in 2012, just as I started studying metacognitive psychology, I got over a very large study within stress that University of Wisconsin actually revealed at that time. Okay. And that's the largest study within stress ever made. Because University of Wisconsin, they tracked 30,000 adult Americans for a period of 8 years.
30,000,
wow. Yeah. And as a PhD yourself,
the
amount of data is humongous.
I would get like 20 people per project or something.
Yeah. Okay. Well, actually, when they started the study, the researchers, they asked the participants how much stress on a scale from 0 to 10
Okay.
It's a PSS scale.
Sure. And what is that? Yeah. What is that?
Actually, that means perceived stress scale.
Okay.
Because stress is always an individual perception.
Sure.
And the scale is if you rate it from 0 to 3, you're within the normal range. Okay. If you rate it from 4 to 6, you are in moderate amount of stress. But if you rate it from 7 to 10, you suffer from severe stress.
Okay.
So they ask those 30,000 adult Americans, how much stress have you experienced during the last year? And then at the same time, they ask, do you believe, and that's the interesting part, that stress could be harmful or dangerous to you? And people could answer yes or no.
Yeah.
And then they track the persons for 8 years.
Yeah.
And the result was and still is very controversial. Because it turned out that people who said that they suffered from severe stress, 7 until 10, and at the same time believed that stress could be harmful to them, they had an increased risk of dying of 43%.
Really?
But the interesting part was really that people who suffered from exact same amount of stress but did not believe that it was harmful to them, they had the lowest risk of dying of everybody in the study, including people who didn't suffer from stress at all.
That's amazing.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Well, actually, as I said, it was very controversial. So Harvard University's psychological faculty, they made a study of control. It's a very what's it called? Very famous study. It's called Mind Over Matter.
Yeah, sure.
So they took 50 young people in the age from 21 to 24, and then they exposed them to a psychological stress test to measure their physiological response.
Yeah.
And afterwards,
can we say what kind of physiological?
You measure their heart rate, the palpitation, the amount of sweaty palms, their breathing and stuff like that.
Okay.
All types of physiological responses.
Sure. Okay.
And then they took completely random 50% of the group, and they taught them how to rethink their reactions about stress. And after doing that, they exposed once again the entire group for a new stress test to measure it. And it turned out that the 25 who had been taught how to rethink reactions about stress didn't respond. So Harvard University concluded that the study from Wisconsin was correct. It's our beliefs who actually defines how we respond.
Interesting.
And that made me very curious because beliefs are metacognition.
That's true, yes.
But what some of the studies hasn't included was to try to figure out, is there any specific beliefs, metacognitions, present when we experience stress? Nobody had dived into that. Yeah. So I started my PhD research at that time. And I got the access to 476 psychologists and psychotherapists work their notes from clients who had suffered from stress.
Okay.
And it turned out that 418 out of the 476 immediately on the first session with the therapist had said that they worried. They worried. Yeah. And a lot of people use that term, I worry, or I have concerns.
Sure.
But very few people are capable of actually defining a worry. So Thomas, could you define a worry to me? What defines a worry?
Well, you want me to give you a worry? You want me to, like, the definition of what worry would mean?
Yeah.
I would say something that a challenge, either a real or an imagined challenge in the future.
Yeah. And you are correct, 50%.
Okay.
Because a worry is defined by two things.
Okay.
The one thing is it's negative thoughts or expectations about the future, something that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's in the future oriented.
Sure, yes.
So we kind of have a worst case scenario, horror scenario. And the second thing is, and that's the important part, is that there is never a solution to the scenario included. So if we only have the worst case scenario and there's no solution included in it, then we start feeling anxious.
Yeah, totally.
And we will feel a lack of power, loss of control. Yeah. And that really activates anxiety and stress.
Yeah.
And every time when we have some kind of stress, there's always some part of anxiety or fear included.
Okay.
You could suffer from anxiety without feeling stress. But every time you feel stress, there's always some amount of anxiety included. So that was very interesting. So that was 418 who actually said initially that they worried, not even knowing what actually worrying means or how it's defined. And the rest of them, the 58% said that they had worst case scenarios. They actually feared the future.
Yeah.
So we could conclude that 100% had that type of thinking in common. That was interesting.
Yeah.
And then I started to look into, would it be possible to define the metacognitions that the beliefs that actually makes you worry? And it turned out that there's always at least one, but most common, two different metacognitions present whenever we worry. And the one is actually a belief that it's beneficial for me to worry.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
Yeah. It is, I have to worry about my kids because I love them.
I can't just let things fall apart. Like you have to have all these things in the air.
Yeah. Or if I'm not worrying about my job or my economic, then something could turn out wrong.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be irresponsible. I'll lose it all. I'll get fired. I'll destroy my relationship.
And then I keep worrying.
Yeah.
And I keep worrying.
Yeah.
So, but somehow I kind of cheat myself. Because you could actually love your kids without worrying about them.
Yeah.
But if you have convinced yourself that it's beneficial for you to worry, then you will keep worrying.
Yeah.
So that's the one part. And actually we call that a positive metacognition, a positive belief.
Okay.
But it's ever never positive.
No,
but we believe that it is.
I see. Yeah.
And the other metacognition is what we call a negative metacognition, because it actually tells me that I can't control my own thoughts. I can't stop it.
Yes.
I'm just a passenger within my own head.
Yes.
I'm sitting on the back seat and all my thoughts, they're just rumbling away. And I'm completely,
what a mess.
Yeah, it's totally mess, right?
Yeah.
And if you have convinced yourself that you can't control your own thoughts, why try?
Then you can't.
Why try? You won't try because you're convinced it's impossible.
Yeah.
And sometimes both of these metacognitions, they're active. And sometimes it's just one of them.
Okay.
So you could say, I could stop it, but I won't, because then I'm not responsible. But you could also say that I know it's not beneficial, but I can't stop it.
Yeah.
So if just one of them is active, you'll be caught in this worrying process, who is a specific thought process.
Yeah. Is there like a super worried if you've got both of them, or is that still the same amount of worry?
It could be both.
Okay, yeah, but that's on a whole new level. That's like another level of worry. It's the same worry.
It's actually another level of worry.
It is okay. So it's like double if you have both.
Spot on, because you could have a worry about a worry.
Yeah.
What if I stop worrying? What should I then worry about?
Yeah.
And you could say, oh my God, this is really a meta perspective.
I've heard that one too.
Yeah. So that was really interesting.
Yeah.
And I talked to a lot of the colleagues that I worked with, and some of them that I actually studied metacognitive psychology with, and I said, if it's possible for us to actually define these metacognitions, why don't we teach people not to worry?
Yeah.
And they said,
that'd be great.
I'm a doctor, I'm a psychologist, I'm a psychiatrist, we treat people.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, but what if we didn't need to treat them?
Yeah.
What if we was capable of preventing it?
Yeah, at the source.
Get the source.
Yeah.
And provide them with tools actually to be capable of handling themselves.
Exactly.
So to me, it made completely common sense, but to them,
It almost sounds too good to be true.
Yeah.
Because it's so counterintuitive. It's because what you're saying is so simple. And when you have a big problem like anxiety, which is a big problem, you think, okay, big problem anxiety requires a big solution. But you're saying big problem anxiety, super simple solution, and it's like, there's no way. There's no way that's gonna work. I want some, the newest pills.
Yeah.
Give me the newest pills, the newest, treatment, or like whatever.
Definitely.
Yeah. It's never just.
No.
The simple.
This is too good to be true.
Yeah.
Or this is just too simple.
Yeah.
It needs to be more complex.
Yeah.
If it's not complex, it can't be worth it.
Yeah.
So, make it more complex. And I said, oh my God, no, the psychology behind it actually is very complex.
Yeah, sure.
And you know, some of the hardest things in life is to make complex things very simple.
Yes.
So, it took me a year and a half actually to work with the data. And then I started working with a course to actually learn people how to handle themselves. And it was ready in the end of 2015. So I went to a lot of Danish companies and said, "Hey guys, you wanna do a pilot with me? Give me 20 of your employees for a 2-day course, and I can teach them not to experience stress again." And believe me, Thomas, I think some of them, they're still sitting out there laughing at me and thinking, "Oh my God, what a joke, what a lunatic! He's completely crazy."
Psychobabble nonsense, you know? Yeah.
You know, totally. Mr. Quick Fix. Yeah. But then. One company, actually the largest insurance company in Scandinavia, If Insurance, they said, "Okay, let's do a pilot," and we did.
Yeah.
And their HR, the president of HR, he said, "This is really interesting. Can we do another pilot?" And we did. And a month later, they said, "We wanna do this to all our employees." But it was a 2-day course. And at that point, they had 8,000 employees in Scandinavia. Yeah. So we started working with Denmark. And actually, If has documented that working with that type of stress prevention, they reduced stress-related sick leaves with 53%.
That's great.
Yeah. So a lot of Danish companies says, this is interesting.
Yeah.
And you know, I really know a lot about people and psychology, but I know absolutely nothing about information technology. I am hopeless.
Sure.
I'm within top 3 of completely lunatics within this.
Sure. Yeah.
So 3 years later, in the beginning of 2019, some very big Danish companies says, "This is very interesting. We want to offer this to all our employees, but we are not going to put them on a 2-day physical course. Can you do this as a digital product?" You know, I got a panic attack.
Yeah, no way. Yeah.
I said, "Oh my God, how are we going to do this?" But Jyske Bank and If Insurance and the Ballerup municipality, they said, we'll try to help you.
Oh, okay.
So we started actually doing the journey that it really is to transform a 2-day physical course into an e-learning program.
Yeah.
And in the middle of 2020, it was ready to launch. And today it's expanding globally. There are more than 5,000 users around the globe, basically driven by Danish companies who have affiliates in China and India, North and Southern America. Novozymes is one of them, for instance.
Okay.
So it was very interesting.
Yeah.
But I kept working with the science. And in 2018, I made a global study as a part of the PhD. Where we had 2,300 respondents in, where we actually wanted to make completely sure that the ideas about thinking processes was correct.
Okay.
And what we could see was that 82% of the respondents immediately could identify that when experiencing inappropriate stress, they had negative thoughts about the future.
Yeah.
A lot of people actually mix up what I call the thought time perspective.
Okay, I want to hear about this. Yeah. What is that?
Well, a lot of people actually think that today is the present.
Okay.
But it's not.
No?
Did you have your breakfast?
I did have my breakfast.
You did have your breakfast. So it's the past.
Oh, early.
And you don't have dinner.
I have not had that yet. No.
So it's actually
that's
the
future. Yeah.
Actually, science proves that it's about 1% of our time that we actually think about right now.
Yeah.
And we have to understand that right now is the past now.
Already. Yeah. I would even say less than 1%. I would say people are so involved in either a side reality or forwards or backwards or something that they're actually I would say that most people have never really experienced presence.
No,
actually.
No, yeah, completely right.
I'm going with less than 1%. I think 1%, that's generous.
That stops.
Yeah.
That stops. Yeah. That stops. Yeah, that's the thought time perspective.
Yeah.
What's very interesting is that everybody has a preference for their thought direction.
Yeah.
That's why some people have a tendency to ruminate a lot about the past, but they actually don't worry much about the future, because they say, I can't control it. I can't solve everything just by sitting it. But I really want to understand why this happened to me. And why did I have this type of upgrowing or childhood?
Unengineer, what's it called? Unengineer the whole past. Like, no, you don't. You don't actually have to do that.
You don't have to do that.
Just let it go.
No, absolutely, because you can change it. It's actually, it's a circumstance. So live with it. Live with it. And then a lot of people that actually don't ruminate about the past. No, they don't. They said, it is what it is. I can't change it. But I really do worry about the future. And I could be in that situation that I really start worrying about that the past will repeat itself in the future. And then actually we're stuck.
Oh gosh.
When we are in that situation, it's actually because we have these beliefs that it's either beneficial for me to ruminate about because I need to understand what happened, because otherwise I can't prevent it. But And you know, some people actually, they've been taught that it's very healthy for you to reflect upon what happened. But it's the same thing about as warriors. There's very few people who can actually define reflection. It's just not ruminating. It's actually to look at the situation. What is the facts that about what happened? What were the consequences? And what's the learning points? Because the learning points is really what makes the change in the future. That's what prevents it from happening again, because I learned something from it.
And what most people will do when they say they're reflecting is they're actually just experiencing the pain of a certain event over and over again and not moving on, or thinking that somehow this has been a good lesson. Because all these painful moments in our life, although tragic and awful in their various ways, have been instrumental in building us to be who we are today. So they're very important. They're very crucial in everything that we are now. If we like who we are now or certain skills that we have now, then we have to acknowledge that whatever happened in the past, regardless of how painful, needs to remain. And you can't remove that, because then you would remove your skills.
Absolutely. And some part of yourself. So we have to come to some kind of acceptance about this happened to me. I can't change it, but I can learn something from it. And that's actually a thought process that's different from ruminating. Because ruminating, we just keep wondering, why did it happen to me?
I wish,
and I should have done this and that.
If only I had done that thing or said the other thing.
So that's actually the difference. But actually, it's the exact same thing that happens when we start worrying. Because just remember that two things that actually defines a worry. It's negative thoughts about the future, and it doesn't include a solution. So the instant second, when we start including possibilities or solutions to the scenario, then we feel some kind of, again, confident. Okay, there's a way out of this. Neurologically, you could say, basically, we could split the brain into three parts. You know much more about the brain than I do, but I know some kind, or at least a little bit about it.
You know plenty,
But you know, the old part of the brain, the reptile complex, actually works 24/7. But there's no consciousness and there's no learning. A frog is born and dies at the exact same level. There's no learning within it. The limbic system that actually more or less controls our emotions and our short-term memory, that's actually what we share with mammoths. That's why we are capable of training a dog. Because it responds to happiness or being yelled at, you know, feeling sorrow.
Feedback in various ways.
Actually. And it has short-term memory. But there's no consciousness. A dog doesn't know it's a dog. That's why you can actually observe.
Wouldn't that be metacognition? There is consciousness in a dog.
Yeah, but it doesn't know it's a dog.
No, not like that.
And it doesn't know that it's that specific dog.
Sure.
And that's why you could experience a Chihuahua look at a big Doberman and say, I'm going to take you. I'm going to take you. Because it has no idea about its own capability or size.
And you can test that with this mirror study. Like if you put an animal in front of a mirror, does it react in like an aggressive way? That means it doesn't acknowledge itself.
No. But the third part of the brain, the gift to all human being, and to some point, some kind of a curse, that's neocortex. Because in neocortex, we are capable of imagining things, and we have consciousness.
And this is the part of the brain that when you see a picture of the brain, all like the wrinkly, that's what we're talking about right now.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, You just told me that you bought an apartment 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm quite sure that when you went into the apartment for the first time to see if it was something for you, you started imagining, oh, I could have my TV there. Yeah. That could be the couch. And that's, stuff like that. Yeah. But it wasn't there.
No, right.
But you could imagine it.
Yes.
Okay. See, the hard part is to understand actually that all our imaginations that are actually fictitious, the reptile complex and the limbic system believes that this is true and this is going on right now. So if we have worst case scenarios that's created in the neocortex part of the brain, actually the reptile system and the limbic system think, oh my God, this is true. This is going on right now. And there's no solution. Right. We're stuck. And it'll activate anxiousness, anxiety, and stress because we are captured in the situation. Although it's not even true. Yeah. It's just a story. It's just a fiction.
So it's almost like getting lost in translation between the different layers. Yeah. Where you have the original message and that gets diluted and that gets diluted even more. Yeah. Or scrambled into now it's just pure chaos and nonsense and terror.
Sure. One part of the brain actually runs Windows and the other one's iOS.
Yes.
And that doesn't speak it. So they need a translator.
Yeah, sure.
So, and sometimes things get lost in translations.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's why, you could just sit I'm sure you have tried sitting completely calm in the couch back at home, watching a movie, and something scary happens, and you react. Oh, yeah. But it's nonsense. Right. Because we as responses is just like if it's happening now, but it's not. Right. It's not. Yeah. So our brain actually cheats us all the time.
It does.
It does. All the time. Yeah. So that was the interesting part. And that's why that I believe, but we can't prove it, but that's why I believe that only, but it's really, from science, it's really a very high amount of people, 82%, who said that when I feel inappropriate stress, it's actually because I have negative thoughts about the future. It's because I think they mix up sometimes the past, the present, and the future. Yeah. They can't distinguish the time thought perspective.
Yeah, sometimes I'll get nervous even though I'm thinking about something that happened. Yeah. And I know it's not going to happen again, but just thinking about it in the past, or, I'm like nervous now. I'm like, well, it makes no sense. And I'm even thinking about, doing metacognition, thinking about my thoughts. I'm thinking this is totally ridiculous. Yeah. I'm not in a dangerous scenario or I don't have to do the public speech or whatever it was. But for some reason, I still have all the symptoms. I'm nervous. I can feel like my palms sweating. I'm breathing fast. It's crazy how a thought really does affect it. Kind of reminds me a little bit about the placebo effect.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Actually, that's the interesting part too, is that we know from science actually that believing that the medication you are getting is helping you is much more important than getting the right medication.
It's incredible.
So it's just if you believe that it helps you, it helps you.
Yeah.
You see, it's just like Disney's, the elephant with the little stick.
Yeah.
If you have it, you can fly and hit it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Dumbo,
I don't have the stick. Yeah, Dumbo.
Yeah.
If you don't have the stick, I can't fly.
Right. Yeah.
So that's actually what metacognitions are. We have a lot of different type of metacognitions. Yeah. When you eat something, it's because you're convinced that you like it and it's healthy for you. Yeah. If you listen to some type of music, it's because you have convinced yourself that I really like it.
Yeah. Yeah. It made me think, well, when I was a kid, I said I didn't like, maybe my green beans or whatever. And just before I even tried them, I was like, no, I'm not going to like it. No. But that's just because it was green and I wanted, something that was, meaty colored or whatever. And so I just created that idea. Yeah. And then I became a slave to it. Yeah. We do that all the time.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. It's completely the same.
Yeah.
Completely the same.
I was also thinking, because when I go to the gyms, I write down, the weights of how much I do on each machine. And sometimes I'll look at the wrong, machine and go to the machine and I put like a lot more weight on it than I normally do. But since I looked, I was like, okay, I can do this much, and I believe that I can, and then I lift it, and then afterwards, wow, that was like 10 kilos more than I thought my max, but I did just fine. And you can't like trick yourself to do that. So that only happens a couple times a year. But when it does, I'm always so amazed. Like, wow, that means it really is the power of mind over matter.
Mind over matter.
And then that makes me think, well, I wonder where else you could apply this. I guess you could apply it everywhere.
Yeah.
You can apply it everywhere. Yeah.
You can do it everywhere.
Yeah.
And actually, that's what makes metacognitive psychology so efficient.
Yeah.
Because you work with the processes and not the thought content. Because We know, also from science, we know that an average person has between 60,000 and 90,000 thoughts a day.
Sure.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
And some people might even think, oh my God, no wonder why I get stressed.
Yeah.
But the good part is about it is actually that it's only statistically 10% that are in our consciousness. And 90% of these 60,000 to 90,000 thoughts are in our subconsciousness.
So we're not aware of a lot of these thoughts.
No.
Can you give an example of a thought that happens that we're not aware of?
Yeah, sure. I bet you when you have been in the shower in the morning and you take your towel and you start drying yourself, you use the exact same routine for drying yourself every day.
Yeah.
But you don't consider it.
Right.
It just happens automatically.
Yes.
It's also the same whenever you put on your pants. Yeah. You always start with the same leg.
Probably.
But you don't consider it. No, or you tie your shoelaces. Yeah. If you have small kids, it's very complicated for them to learn how to knot their shoelaces, right? Yeah. But today you just do it and you start thinking about everything else. Okay. So it's an automatic process. Yeah. It just keeps going. So we have a lot of things.
Habits, routines.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And actually, that's very interesting because most people think that habits is basically towards our behavior. What we see and what we do. Yeah. But we have even more habits within our thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
We have. Yeah. Most part of what you think today, you thought yesterday. Yeah. And you will keep thinking again tomorrow. Yeah. So thoughts just keep repeating. So we have a lot of different thoughts that are just habits. Yeah. We just used to think like that. Yeah. So we keep doing it.
That's why I'm always amazed when people argue about politics because people have been thinking about whatever they're thinking for however long. I've never seen someone be like, you know what, that was a good argument. I'm going to switch political sides. Never. It's always just more fighting and more, you stay with your own opinion. Yeah. Because we do build our whole foundation and identity on these ideas, which we reinforced for so long.
Sure. Yeah. And that's actually based on convictions. Yeah. Because you are convinced that this is the right opinion. Yeah. And I normally, when I teach, I ask, do you think that anybody has a wrong opinion? And a lot of people say, yeah. I say, not if you ask themselves. Nobody wakes up in the morning and think, I have a wrong opinion. Yeah. I'll stick to that. Yeah. No, they change it. Yeah. But we stick to it because we are convinced that it's the right opinion. Yeah. So convictions are really strong for us.
Very powerful. They're truths. They're actually, in a way, they're more truth than actual truth for us.
Yeah, for us, yeah. Because reality is perception. Yeah. And we have perceptions based upon our convictions. Yeah. And our reality is made upon our thoughts. Yeah. So our thoughts create the real world.
Which means that we're not actually in touch with reality.
No, never. No. That's why we don't have a universe, we have a multiverse.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay.
So everybody lives in their own little bubble of the world and their perception about how stuff are. Yeah. And I do that when I teach about stress, for instance. If I have 20, 25 or 50 people, I say, okay, let me give you one small exercise. When I say go, you have exactly 1 minute to prepare a 1 minute speech where you stand up and make a presentation of yourself with focus on your personal weaknesses. Yeah. And I say, go. And most people say, oh God, I have to write down. Yeah. And I said, okay, 30 minutes, 30 seconds, 15 seconds, time's up. Okay, who want to be the first? Yeah. And that's all. I can be the first. Yeah. And I said, okay, just before you start, let me ask all of you, on a scale from 0 to 10, how much pressure did you feel when I told you about the exercise? And some say 0 and some say 10. And then I said to them, okay, could we agree upon that the exercise was the exact same for everybody in the room? Yeah. But the response was completely different. Yeah. Why? It's because we have different perceptions. Yeah. So our perception actually defines how we respond to stress. And I find that very interesting because traditionally we have been taught that stress is based upon external factors. A bad manager, too big, heavy workload. But it's only half the truth. It's how we perceive the manager. It's how we perceive the workload. That's why if you have an apartment with one manager and 10 employees, and 2 of them, they are on a stress-related sick leave because of the bad manager. They all have the same manager. Why aren't the rest of them on it? Because they have different perceptions. And why do we have the perceptions? Because we have convictions. We believe that when this is said, I have to worry or I have to ruminate about why did he do it like this, or how should I ever be capable of handling all of these deadlines.
Yeah.
So that's the interesting part.
Yeah.
Metacognitive psychology is very interesting, but it's also very complicated, actually. So when I started working with metacognitive psychology and developing the method to prevent stress and also to treat it with stress, and today there are more than 60 people around in Scandinavia that are actually educated in the MINDstrain method that I developed. That's a further development of metacognitive psychology because it's clarifying the specific metacognitions. Can
we go into detail of this MINDstrain?
Yeah.
Okay, I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah. Sure. Actually, what I wanted to do was that I wanted to be capable of teaching people how to catch a fish.
Yes.
That was what I did.
Yeah.
But then I had to clean the model and the theory from psychological phrases.
Okay.
We had to simplify it. So what actually I did, I said, well, we teach people about the 60,000 to 90,000 thoughts a day. 10% is in our consciousness and 90% is in our subconsciousness. But the thoughts in our consciousness is being activated by thoughts from our subconsciousness. It's just like if you take a wine cork and you hold it under the water in your bathtub and you let it go, what happens?
Okay. It flies up.
It flies up to the surface. Yeah. That's a trigger thought.
Yeah.
You can't prevent it from popping up. Right. You can say, go away, and a second later, boop, it pops up again. Right.
Yeah.
It's actually called a trigger thought because it activates something given that we give it a certain value. It could be either be a positive, a neutral, or a negative. For instance, if we're sitting here in the studio and we can hear an ambulance, the sirens of an ambulance, that's actually a trigger. We can't prevent it. And we can't say it wasn't there because it was.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have three options. We could say, that's an ambulance. We're giving it a neutral meaning. Yeah. Or we could say that, oh my God, it's an ambulance. I hope it's not the kids. And what if they're okay? Okay, we give it a negative value.
Yeah.
Or we could say, thank God it's an ambulance. Somebody is in the need of care or being rescued, and somebody is on the way to actually help them. So we're giving it a positive value.
Yeah.
The value that we give it defines the following thought process. If we are giving it a negative thought process, then we will get into a negative thought spiral. That thought spiral has a limitation. And actually, that's not a psychological, but a neurological limitation. And let me give you an example.
Yeah.
You go to the gym. Okay, you ready for an exercise?
I'm ready, yeah.
You're ready?
Here we go.
Okay, here you go. Okay, Thomas. When I say go, I want you to mention all the different exercises you can remember as fast as you can until I say stop. You ready?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, go.
Okay, bicep curl, tricep extension, leg curl, push-ups, sit-ups, abs, chest machine, back machine, row.
You did very good.
Oh,
you did very good.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
Compliments to you. Actually, you mentioned 8.
Oh, okay.
8, and then you made a... okay. That's because our short-term memory has a limitation.
Yeah.
And it's called 7 plus minus 2.
Oh, yeah?
It is.
Oh, okay.
It is. And actually, that's a range of 5 to 9.
Yeah.
There's nobody who is capable of handling more than a maximum of 9 topics, subjects, or thoughts at the same time.
Okay.
Then we have to do and then we can go again.
How many did I do before I said
8.
8. Really? Okay.
Yeah, you did 8.
Okay.
You're really good.
Oh, good.
But most people actually is in the span of 5 to 7. And I bet you, if you have tried to wake up in the middle of the night and you just feel you have myriads of thoughts, it's just rumbling around. Right?
Yeah.
I'm quite sure that if you try to think about it, it's the same 5 to 7 either sentences or topics that keeps repeating themselves over and over and over again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same for everybody.
The world is full of temptations and problems and triggers, but it's only a couple that really have got your focus.
Yeah. And that's actually what we are thinking upon. So it's the thought content, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a neurological limitation we have within our short-term memory. Okay, if all of our short-term memory is filled up, completely stuffed with worries, there's no room for anything else. We're not capable of thinking rationally. We are not capable of focusing on anything else. And we are not capable of keeping new things in the stock.
Yes.
In our memory.
Yeah.
And some people actually mix up. They say, if I suffer from stress, I suffer also from memory loss. No, you don't. Because it never got in the memory. Because there's no room for it.
Like that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
It was never processed.
It's in the process, but it didn't get in there.
Yeah.
I heard it. Yeah. That's why, if you are really, really stressed and somebody's talking to you, a colleague is coming, giving you a message or an order or whatever, and they leave and you said, what was this about? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, I have cognitive problems.
Yeah.
Now I have lost my memory. I can't even remember anything anymore.
Yeah.
But it never got in there.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Which we know all the time when we're doing something that's very natural, and then what if you have like the Rise Accord, we have to log in for to get on the Metro, and you do it so many times. Sometimes you'll get on and you'll be like, did I do it? I don't even remember I did it. And it's not that you're losing your memory. It's just things that are just sometimes so natural that they don't get encoded.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Or if you've been driving in your car. And you're thinking in your own thoughts.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And suddenly you look out and you say, oh my God, how did I get here?
Yeah, how did I get home?
How did I get home? How did I get here?
I just all the time.
And that's because all of your focus points has been towards your inner processes. And it has not been towards external things. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you have that, we know also from science that nobody is capable of having this type of negative thought filled up for a maximum of, now, hold your horse.
I'll hold my horses.
A maximum of 3 minutes. Then we will start get physiological responses.
Yeah?
Yeah. And some scientists says today it's far too much.
Yeah.
It's maybe a minute or a minute and a half.
Oh, like that, yeah.
Yeah, it's far too much. But we know for sure that nobody could sit down either ruminating or worrying about it without getting some kind of physiological response. It could be heartache, stomach ache, you could have problems swallowing, dryness in your mouth, you have bells from your ears, you could have some kind of dizziness, feeling unreal.
Lots of things. Yeah.
That's what we typically connects with stress responses. Yeah. And actually it's because we have thought within this. And actually it's called a cognitive attentional syndrome.
Okay.
It's called a cognitive attentional syndrome, but nobody remembers that.
No.
So what I did was I said, let's compare it. It's just like if you have a drum dryer and you take 5 to 7.
You have a what?
A dryer.
Yeah.
Dryer at home,
Yeah.
Try to imagine, Thomas, you have your dryer at home and you take 5 to 7 breaks, stuff it in, push the start button.
Yeah.
You imagine the sound?
Yeah, it's quite loud.
You think?
Quite loud.
How long time you think it'll last?
The dryer? Oh, not long.
No. Just remember, you have your thought dryer,
but
you start responding after a maximum of 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a dryer back at home?
I do not.
You do not. No, actually not. You go to the laundromat.
We'll have it in my cellar.
Okay. But when you see your dryer, you can't see what makes the drum go round.
Yeah. Correct.
So you have to pull it out from the wall, and you have to unscrew the back plate, and then you can see the engine that actually makes it spin. Right?
Yeah.
It's the same in here. And the engines are metacognitions. It's the metacognitions.
There you go.
And your dryer back at home doesn't care if you try to dry shirts, towels, sheets, or bricks. It works the exact same way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But if you have to control the dryer, you need to control the engine. Right? It's the same here.
Okay.
So every time when you work with the thought processes, metacognitions, you actually don't have to worry about what you worry about, the thought content, because the thought processes is the exact same.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so efficient.
Yeah.
So what we also can see that working with thought processes for people who actually suffers from stress and anxiety, we can document today by more than 1,200 people who has been in treatment with this method, that 98%, hold your horse, 98% could be at a normal stress level within 4 sessions.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
That is incredible.
How is it? How does not everybody know about this?
You tell me.
Well, after this podcast, hopefully they will. But that's incredible. Yeah, again, the power of psychology. People don't realize.
No.
And I suppose you could use these same principles not only for stress, but depression and anorexia and drug addictions and everything.
Yeah. Most kind of addictions or abuse of, it could be anything. It could be, some people only think that when you are an abuser, it could be abuse of food or sugar or alcohol or drugs. But it could also be that you're an abuser of sex or sports or stuff like that. Yeah. But it's all about the same thing. It's about turning down the thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get rid of all the negative thoughts you have. But it's far more efficient, actually, to work with the processes that keeps thriving your driver.
Yeah, yeah. So essentially what you're saying is you build within yourself the strongest motor to spin, and you'll be able to handle anything that gets thrown on that dryer. Yeah.
Sure. Because the process is the same.
Yeah.
And we could see from the research, we could see in total I had 3,111 responses within the research. We could see that no matter if you're from China, from India, if you are Hindu or you are a Catholic, or if you're single, if you're married, your age, your gender, everybody has the same thought processes present.
And so for our viewers who are watching this and they understand the value in what you're saying, and they're at home, what would be some advice to start this process of being metacognitive or changing your way of thinking?
Well, the first thing is actually to define, when I experience some kind of physiological responses, I'm feeling kind of, okay, then ask yourself, what goes on right now? Is it about the past or is it about the future?
Okay.
So you have to focus upon your attention. What do I focus upon, right? Mm-hmm. And if it's about the future, then ask yourself, is there any possibilities or solutions included in the way I think about it? If the answer is yes, keep going. But if the answer is no, stop it. And then you actually
so you mean if it's out of my control, like the weather, can I change the weather out of my control so I don't have to worry about it? I don't know if that was a good example.
It's a very good example.
Yeah, okay.
Actually, a lot of people, they spend a lot of time talking about and worrying about stuff and things, situations that they actually can't control.
Yeah.
The weather.
Yeah, okay.
We can talk about it, but it won't be our talk that would change the weather.
Yeah.
But the weather is actually a circumstance that we could move ourselves away from. Mm-hmm. Because you and I could say, we don't want to be here, we want to go to Dubai. Yeah. 36 degrees all the year. And you and I will get another weather. Yeah. But it won't change the weather in Denmark.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. If you are in a queue, in a jam every morning in the traffic, you can honk the horn and you can smash the wheel and you can shout at the guy in the car. Yeah. But the jam won't go away because of what you're doing. Yeah. So it's actually not a problem; it's a circumstance.
Yeah. And that's a good distinction.
It is.
That's a great distinction.
And actually, you could everything in the world in this life you could categorize as, is it either a circumstance or is it a problem?
Yeah.
And a lot of people, they get mentally ill because they try to change circumstances. Yeah. They mix them up.
Totally. Yeah. So I guess a good first step would be to be very honest with yourself when you're looking at your thoughts or the situations or the challenges ahead of you or obstacles, and think, is this something I can control? Is it not? And then if it's not, then what do I do? Because I'm very fixated on my belief that I want to change that, and so now I've just given myself a truth bomb that says, okay, I can't change that. I have to change this. And then how do you change yourself?
You change by challenging your beliefs, your metacognitions. Yeah. Okay, so if I worry about my sick father, would my worrying make him healthy again? No. Yeah. Could it prevent him from getting even more sick? No. Then why worry?
Yeah.
I don't worry. Could I still be thinking of him without worrying? Sure I could. Okay. So if you believe that I have to worry about him because otherwise I don't love him, then you have a negative belief about it, and then you will keep worrying about it. So you have to change. Is it beneficial for me to think about it in this way?
It's really helpful to really define all these things. Like if you draw it out instead of saying, "Oh, I'm worried," be like, "Okay, well, what are the different things? Who are you? What can you do? What can't you do?"
Sure.
Put all the pieces together. That really gives you almost gives you a lot of space. It's like, oh, okay, it's like calm down and really get a good look at it to figure out what you need to do.
Sure. A lot of people at the present moment could worry a lot about Ukraine.
Yeah.
And it's okay, but worrying won't stop the war.
Yeah.
No. And it won't prevent it from spreading.
Yeah.
No, it won't. Worry is kind of like a rocking chair, I normally says.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. You're moving back and forward, but you ain't getting anywhere.
Not going anywhere. I heard
you're
that
not getting anywhere.
Yeah.
So it's just the same. You're just sitting like there all the time, but you're stuck in the same
doing a lot of work, not doing anything.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you could compare it to worries don't prevent anything from happening.
No.
But it prevents you from feeling good right now.
Yeah.
It does. And it causes anxiety.
Yeah. Actual physical health problems as well.
Yeah. Mental health is really it's a global problem. And the next thing I'm working with is actually sleep, because I find sleep very interesting, because we could see that from more than 77,000 studies globally who has been conducted by and gathered by two American scientists. I'm in contact with Matthew Walker and David Dinges. We could see from their research actually that the lower sleep quality you really have, the more you are exposed to worry, because your cognitive processes actually doesn't function optimal.
Yeah, I guess there's a healing effect to sleep, to recharge, and if you can't recharge, then of course your batteries aren't working, and then you can't function. And then
you can't.
Yeah.
And some of the stages during our sleep actually has different types of purposes. Our REM sleep, the part of sleep where we actually dream, has to help us actually to empty our short-term memory. And that's why if we have a bad sleep the next day, it's very hard for us to adapt new learnings and to concentrate and to focus.
I haven't thought about that.
Yeah, because some of the 5 to 9 topics are still in there.
Yeah. Okay.
So the dryer is still running.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's very interesting.
Yeah. So for our viewers that are watching, make sure you take care of your sleep and make sure you take care of your worries. And those will actually improve each other. The less worries, the better sleep. The more you sleep, the less you worry.
Spot on.
Yeah. Right. Well, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. It's been a really enjoyable conversation, and I hope you guys have gotten something out of this and can use this advice back at home. Thank you for watching. Thank you so much. That was great. I really enjoyed this one. This is by far my favorite. Easily.
Thank you.
Easily.
This one and the one with
Calvin Dawson, that was nice.
This one actually gave some tools. Basic things.
Yeah.